From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov.
So Neumann MT-48 pre-orders are booming. And also, the thing has a fan in it. So let's talk about all the things I've learned in the last 48 hours about the Neumann MT-48. So today we're on the Assassin microphone. You can see this is prototype number 5. What I did with this version is I increased the polarization to the capsule to 78 volts, just under 80. Before it was 65, so now it's a little bit more sensitive. It's quieter. And it really kind of picks up a little bit more. It's a little bit more of everything. So I really like this version. So the process continues. The Assassin microphone, otherwise known as the Microphone Assassin microphone. So the Neumann MT-48. Pre-orders are huge. So I'm hearing from more than one source that pre-orders are the thing's a hit. Even before it's come out, it is a hit. People want to own this thing. So if you're on the fence about it, if you're waiting for it to hit the shelves, you may be faced with a backorder issue. So and so it's scheduled to hit resellers. And when I say scheduled, that means that their best estimate, given all the factors involved with shipping stuff around the world and et cetera, et cetera. So it's looking like the first week of May-ish, beginning of May, is when these things will be hitting resellers and be distributed to everyone who, bought their pre-order. But yeah, it really looks like that they may sell out of the entire first manufacturing run of MT-48s. So, if you're on the fence about it, take that to heart. And the other thing is, so I wanted to mention that right away. And the other thing is, I know that some of you have expressed concerns about there being a fan inside of the unit. So I looked into it. I talked to Neumann. I talked to a couple people about this. Read a bunch of different people's responses to how the fan sounds. And overall, like everybody, there was one person who was like, "Oh, the fan was too loud, but I had it set on high." So there are 4 settings for the fan. Now, the fan doesn't run continuously. It only kicks on when the unit hits a certain ambient temperature. There's a lot of chips inside this thing, so it's going to run a little hot. The frame is made out of aluminum, so it acts as a heat sink. But on either side, there are 2 little dual fans, right, pushing air through it. And so you can turn the fans off, which I don't think is fully recommended, or you can set low, medium, or high. And from what I hear, that on medium even, there is no perceptible fan noise. Now, what somebody thinks is not perceptible fan noise may be different than my or your definition of perceptible fan noise. But one thing, like here in the booth, right? It sounds extremely quiet. It sounds dead silent. But there is actually a little bit of fan noise going on. In the Studio Bricks booth, they give you a little ventilation unit that sits on the floor inside the booth. And although it is extremely quiet, with a sensitive mic like this, it will pick up the sound of the fan. And so what I've done here, as a matter of fact, look, I'm going to turn off the CVOX right now. Right? You can hear that. So, with CVOX on, I'm not really worried if there's a tiny little minimal amount of fan noise, like in a very, around that frequency range. I think CVOX will take care of it. But again, I am really eager to get my hands on one to find out if it is a deal breaker because, use case for voiceover is a little bit different than I think use case for mastering. But we shall see. But my understanding is from several sources is that fan noise should not be a problem. All right. So I know that some of you are concerned that the unit, that it's 3 years old. There's nothing new going on here. But the fact is you're talking about what it does. It has mastering grade conversion in it. The converters are top of the line. I was reading the whole GearSpace thread on the Anubis, and people were like, I sold my links. I sold my high-end converters after I got the Anubis. So converters are pretty much you can't do much better. I mean, I'm sure you can, but I mean, for what you're paying in that range, Converters are top notch. You have reference grade preamps. You have the expandability of the whole unit. So I think that overall, right? People talk about it being a 3-year-old a 3-year-old product, but what has improved in these areas, right? I mean, is there better conversion than this? Are there better preamps than this? So if this still remains to be top quality, even at 3 years old, I mean, come on, we're talking about, there are people who complain that stuff doesn't sound vintage enough, and there are people who are like, oh, it's not new enough, even though it's even though it's the best possible quality that you can get at this price range. So I don't know. But my feeling about it is that I'm not looking at it as it being outdated at all. I'm looking at it as already being debugged. If this thing has been out for 3 years and the architecture inside the unit, other than the USB connectivity and the ADAC connectivity, if pretty much the way this thing runs, Swiss precision engineering, if the way this thing runs hasn't changed in 3 years, then they've debugged the crap out of it. So, you're not going to get the new product hiccups, I think, that you might get. So I feel that it's a positive that it's been out for 3 years. I mean, again, I'm using Apollos that were what? These were created like a decade ago, designed like a decade ago. So it's all up from here. Some people I know were bummed out about the color. If the color of the unit bothers you enough to not buy it, then you're probably not the right demographic for it. And just accept that and move on. That's not a criticism in any way. It's just basically, fact. If the color of the unit bothers you, I don't care what color the unit is. How does it sound? I don't really care what color anything is. How does it sound? So my understanding, glug, 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 my understanding, feel free to drink, is that the pre-production color was not 100% dialed in yet. So, it's that silver champagne color that they have on like Neumann microphones. It's standard Neumann champagne silver. And if you've ever sold a TLM 103 on eBay, you know what it's like trying to get a good picture of it. And you know that it never looks quite as good in the picture as it does in person. And I think that has to do with, unfortunately, the little tiny metallic flecks in the paint, the way they refract light. So I don't think it photographs well, but and I'm sure it looks better in person. And also now the color is better. So yeah, not worried about that. Overall, I think that's really I think when I look at the Neumann MT-48, I see something that is capable of providing an extremely high level work product. So I'm very intrigued, and I can't wait to get my hands on one. So, Nation, what do you think? The MT-48, and again, you know what? Universal Audio. I think the fact that it's been confirmed that they are not showing anything new at Namm. So Barry John's got it wrong. And they're not the only ones. Gibson. I hear the Gibson and Fender. I haven't confirmed this, but I heard that Gibson and Fender aren't even really showing at Namm. So you also have to understand that this is a weird Namm. This is a bridge Namm. Namm is usually in the summer, in June. And and companies kind of work their production and release schedules around this thing, around basically, because when you have a trade show in June and you're showing off all the things, your roadmap, all the products you have, and you're basically telling retailers like, here is for the next year, including the holiday season. Here is all the stuff that you should be ordering from us. So we're a little early in the development window for a lot of companies. And even though COVID kind of smashed that whole thing to bits, and we had a couple of years of COVID Namm, 2020 Namm was, I think, the last one, and then everything shut down. So they did this bridge Namm in April. And so there isn't a lot of new stuff coming out. So if you've been waiting for people to announce new products in NAMM, don't be surprised if there's not a whole lot this year. And I think that Universal Audio, um, not coming out with a new interface right now. I think what happened was, and this could be, you can call this the Barry Johns effect or whatever, but I think there were a lot of people who were convinced, uh, who were convinced with a shred of circumstantial evidence presented by someone who misinterpreted it. I think a lot of people were convinced that there was going to be new interfaces at NAMM from Universal Audio, and some people sold their stuff, and some people were like really ready to upgrade. And so, in the absence of that, I think there are people who see this announcement from Neumann and are like, "This looks like a unit with this looks like a unit with a future, as opposed to Universal Audio's hardware, which seems like the future is uncertain." And that's the thing. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with Universal Audio interfaces. Obviously they have to integrate more with native plugins in order to really continue to exist in the same way, using the same workflow that people are used to with UA. But I think people are tired of UA for a number of reasons. And again, my understanding is that UA is coming out with something, but it just won't be at NAMM. So yeah, I think there are people who are actively looking to buy an interface, and the Neumann is going to be it for right now. So yeah, if you're looking to pre-order, consider it a little bit more seriously. I'm not saying buy it. I'm not saying pre-order it, but I'm just saying that just take into account that this first batch of units is going to sell out before this thing hits the shelves. So yeah, pretty cool. Neumann MT-48. All right, Nation, what are your thoughts? All right, until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.